This is a custom built desk with a metal frame and a timber panel top. Stick around and I'll show you how I made it. I first started off this build by doing a quick drawing in SketchUp, which will be a free file in the description if anybody wants it. The measurements are 1800mm long, 600mm in depth and 800mm tall. These two boxes are custom sizes, one being for my 3D printer and the other being a spot for when I eventually get a desktop. Here is our wonderful steel. We got about 30 by 30 by 2mm square at 1.6 meters long, so it still makes it look like I'm tall. Then we're going to take all this outside and get chopping. Lining up some of the steel and cutting all the pieces at once is a very easy way to make sure all the cuts are exactly the same size, especially when you only have an angle grinder. To secure the wooden top to the frame, I'll be drilling holes in the steel so I can use some screws. A smaller hole was drilled through both sides of the steel box section and a bigger hole was drilled on one side so the head of the screw can fit through. The next step is to start welding. Before undertaking a big project, it's always best to try and break it down in some small repeatable tasks. For example, I'm welding 4 leg pieces that are exactly the same. Now all those pieces are made and they are all level and perfect, we can now weld some side pieces on, and finally stick 2 of the leg pieces together, which leaves us with one side of our metal frame. Time to show off my welds. What does everybody think? I agree. Luckily an 80 grit flap disc on an angle grinder will fix that right up. Next job to do is I have some 3mm flat bar and I'm going to cut them into about 30mm-ish squares. Then we're drilling an 8mm hole right through the middle of those squares so I can weld a nut onto one side of the place. A few tacks should hold it. Then it's time to weld the plate onto the bottom of the metal frame legs. And find the whole thing needs some more attention with the angle grinder just to make everything more even. So now that we're finishing up this base, I've got these little adjustable legs that are on a thread and that's why I've welded on that M8 nut. So now, once these are all threaded in, once it's all standing up, we can level it once it's in the room. Time to make everything look nice and pretty. First we put a coat of oil-based metal primer on. Then we're going to polish it off with 2 coats of water-based gloss black. So here's the acacia panel board, which is what we're going to be using for the desktop. However, it is 2.2 meters long and towering over me, and we do not want it this long. We're going to chop it down to 1.8 meters. I measured out just a little over 1.8 meters and drew a line across the top. Then we got a circular saw out and cut the excess off, but we'll be using this later. I used a block plane to put a very small chamfer on the front edge so that it doesn't hurt your wrists when you're leaning on it. Moving into the finishing phase, I gave the top a quick sand with 120 grit and then another quick sand with 240 grit. Now this is a water-based gloss floor varnish which is very durable and is what I'm going to be using to top our bench top with. Going over the top with a roller, you can instantly start to see a big difference. I gave this about 4 coats. I brought the whole desk upstairs where I attached the top onto the frame. I then used that little bit of excess top for the desktop space. As for the 3D printer space, I used a sheet of 12mm MDF with some foam glued on top, as this helps reduce vibrations when in use. I also added in this headphone stand made from metal pipe, which will be the first video in a new series I'm making called Quick Builds. Quick Builds will be premiering on the 20th of March. And that is a very simple desk build which turned out absolutely amazing, and I'm 100% sure just about anybody with basic welding skills could easily make this. Thank you all so much for watching, and make sure you follow all my social medias linked down in the description to stay up to date with what I've been up to. See you all next time.